This Metaltrax training session is going to be receiving in the purchase order that we did in our last Metaltrax training session. If you have not viewed that, you can view that. It's called Metaltrax Entering Purchase Orders. So now what we're going to do is we're going to receive in the purchase order. I click up on the Purchases menu item. I come down to the icon that says Receive Inventory. This will pull up my Receive Inventory screen. The icons and the smaller icons in the upper left-hand corner are the same. E to edit, I have a delete, I have a cancel. I have one different one here, well, a few different ones. There's a post button, which we'll talk about in a minute, a print, and then this is my lookup. So what I'm going to do here at the receiving number, I'm going to hit enter and let the system assign the next available receiving number. I'm going to hit enter on the date because it's today's date. And now at the PO number, I can just type in my PO. If I don't know my PO, I can hit my lookup buttons here, and I can say, well, I'm looking up from vendor Nucor, and I want to display. So I click on the display records. It shows me that this is one of the ones that I did, and that's the one. That's the one I'm looking for, is 4024 for Mark Jacobson. At this point, it does, when I choose it, you notice it prompts and tells me there's a non-material lot charge of $100 that will be applied to this receiving. That's my freight charge that I've told the system to add to the receiving. As I hit enter, you notice there's one button that becomes blue up here. That's an all button. If you click on that, that will have the system will say, okay, everything on that purchase order was exactly how I wanted to, and then it'll just receive everything in for you, especially for homogeneous items, which we will be talking about in a little while. For tagged items, it's a little difficult because it does want for you to assign a tag, and it doesn't know which tag that you want to assign the material. But in this instance, let's say we're not going to use the all button. So I'm prompted for a receiving line. So I hit enter, let the system assign it, and now it says, which PO line number do you want to receive? Now I could do a lookup if I wanted to see in this case, or I could have just typed in 1, but I'm going to choose my plate. In this case, you notice it says material cost is $67 a hundredweight. I could override it at this time, but I'm going to accept it. I could also change the description. I'm receiving it into my main warehouse, and it's asking for my tag number. I can type in a tag number, or I can hit enter and let the system assign a tag number. Now your tag numbers, whether they be unique or non-unique, are set up under your miscellaneous master files under your warehouse icon. And that will define whether you want your tag number to be strictly numeric, or maybe you want it to be a 10661-B. An alphanumeric number would be a non-unique number. So we're going to let the system assign the number, and at the heat number prompt, we're going to type in a heat number. We're going to hit enter, and what we can do is we can have the system optionally set up where it can also prompt you for a chemistry record. This is if you were doing your own internal chemistry. So if you were saying that I had a certain amount of percarbon, a certain amount of magnesium, and so on. So you can do your own internal MTRs, which you will prompt for elongation, tensils, RAs, yields, and even have additional notes and specs. So there's a lot of things that you can set up here if you want to do chemistries, and you can talk to us about that. In this instance, I just wanted to show you a brief lookup. I'm just going to close that down and say that I don't want to save it. A lot of our users use our Traxit program to scan and store their MTRs, and in that instance you can have the MTRs, the mill test reports, pulled in automatically when you type in the heat number. So in this case, the order width and length is 48 by 96. Again, I can change it by typing in a non-standard width and length, or I can choose any different size. But to keep it simple, let's say it's a 48 by 96. I can see that I ordered 50 pieces, and I'm going to say, all right, but 51 pieces came in. At the location, I can type in a location, or again, I can click on my binoculars and do a lookup. So let's say that it is at location A2 in the warehouse. That's my staging location, or maybe the location of the rack that it's going to. The quantity is brought in at 16,662 pounds. Now this is a theoretical weight based on that pounds per square foot that's for this item. That doesn't mean that I have to keep it that. If I can type in the weight and it was actually 16,689 pounds, I can do that. At the thickness prompt, I can type in a thickness of plate, or I can hit enter and the system will bring in the default for that 1/4 inch plate. In this case, you notice it says 0.25. Then over on the right-hand side, we have user-defined fields. These are defined by me, again, in the feature initialization. I've typed in simple ones like the mill, the country, the condition of the material, grade, tensile, and so on. Feel free to use whatever you want in the user-defined fields, but remember, you will be able to track on those fields. So if I come in here and I type in that my mill is Nucor and my country is United States, and maybe I can come down and type in any of the grades or tensils or temps or finishes, and when I'm done, I save that. When I'm in inventory, I can search for all my plate that has Nucor as the mill. So it's important, if you're using tagged inventory, to set those up where with user-defined fields where you'll want to that you may want to look up based upon. When I'm done, I'm going to click line finished. You notice it says the total quantity received exceeds the original order quantity. This is just so you can double check your work. You notice theoretically it's 16,000 pounds. I overwrote it and said 16,689, but I still want to save this receiving, so I'm going to say yes. Now my next line that I'm going to receive in, I'm going to type in line 1 for the PO, and this is saying that I want to maybe receive in another line. I just wanted to show you, you could over receive and receive in another tag. So let's say they sent me another piece. It was a little bent up, so I type in the heat number. And in this case, I'm going to say no, I don't want to put in the chemistry, but I just say one piece. Okay? Now when I say one piece is only 326 pounds. Let's say that piece is bent up. I have a neat feature down here called a non-conformance. So I can say, you know what? I rejected one of those pieces because the piece was bent and damaged. Now the reason why I just received this in twice is to show you that you can receive in one line multiple times, and you can even assign different tags to that receiving. But in this instance, I wanted to show you that maybe I'm going to tell them that I wanted to reject the piece, and then I save and print. Now you notice when I save and print, it pops up this little nonconformity report, tells them what tag number it is, tells them the piece was damaged, any other disposition remarks I want to have, and then I can email that right over to my vendor right then. If I'm not using the nonconformance report, I can have it so the system just keeps track of that nonconformity on the system, and it'll make it red when it's in inventory, and that's how it works. So that's just to show you different. I can do line finished, and it's a less than the order quantity because obviously I ordered 51 pieces, and in this case 50 pieces. I already received in 51, but this one piece is less than the 50. So do you want to close the PO line? I'm going to say yes. Okay, now my next line that I want to receive in is line 2 on the purchase order, and that's my angle. In this case, this is not a tagged item, so it doesn't prompt you for tag number or heat number. It just prompts you for the number of pieces. And I'm going to say that it was 100 pieces. I'm going to hit enter on the weight because basically I'm saying that 2,000 feet, I'm just going to accept the theoretical weight of 1,400 pounds. That's the difference from tagged and homogeneous. The homogeneous won't track any of the user-defined fields, the tag, the heat number, or do a non-conformity or anything. It just receives it in to your inventory as a homogeneous item. But you notice a few things down here at the bottom. The non-material cost. This is if I have any non-material cost on the item, like we had in our case. We had $100 of freight. If I want to change it, I can change it there. If I want to add any surcharge or fuel surcharge or steel surcharge, I can put it in there. I can also, if you notice down at the bottom, there's a line non-material cost. This is if I had any cost or non-material cost on each individual line. I may have a $100 freight charge, but I may have a heat treating charge just for line number 1 or line number 2. I can do that if I'd like, and I can do that on the fly. You notice I also have a button reserved to sales orders. If I click on the reserved to sales order button, it will tell me if there's any open items. In this case, I don't have any open items on the sales orders, so there's nothing to reserve it to. There's also a button down at the bottom called print tags. If I hit the print tags button, it will print a nice detailed tag for my inventory for all of the items on that receiving that were tagged. In this case, it was only lines 1 on the receivings, line 1 and 2, because they were both referencing PO line 1. I'll print those tags and I could put them on the material that's in the staging area. When I'm all done, I can say receiving finished or line finished. If I want to do line finished and do another line, I can. But at this point, I can hit the print button, And let's print it and print it to screen so you can see what it looks like. Once the receiving is printed to screen, I can review it. I can zoom up on it. I can see what it is that I've received in, and it'll give me a lot of detail on what the receiving entails. If I want to go to a second page, I just click on the buttons up here and it'll go to the second page. Second page in this case just gives me a summary breakdown by category of what I've received in. When I'm all done, I will have to hit the post button. If you don't post, it just stays out in receivings as unposted. But I'm going to hit the post button. Now what the post button will do is this post it actually through to the general ledger and through to the inventory. So now if I was to go into inventory, I would see that tag and that item for your angle, your quantity for your angle item. And so I click OK, and it posted through successfully. That is receiving in your inventory. The next one we'll do is we will do training on reversing the receiving. That's correct. You can even reverse a receiving that has already been posted, even if it's already been posted through to your inventory and through to your general ledger. And that will be our next training session that we'll cover. Thank you for your time.